Today we're going to talk about the prospects of the Batumi real estate market. Many of you have invested in Batumi real estate and are curious about what will happen in 5 years. And it's also interesting for future investors who are coming here, what they're investing in, if there's any growth potential at all, and many other questions. All these questions will be answered in this video. The goal of this video is to compile a set of factors about Batumi that will help you decide whether it's worth investing here or not, what the risks are, and other important points. And of course, the prospects that lie ahead for you. I have a group for you. You can join it via the link. There are many free surprises there, including project reviews I can't do on YouTube. There are very attractive prices and other things that will be extremely useful to you if you're an investor naturally. Though even if you don't plan to invest, these points will still be very helpful. So join the group. The Telegram link is in the description of this video. I think you'll like it. To start, we'll naturally go through the districts and I'll tell you about the prospects of each one, including from an investment standpoint, how the districts will develop and lots of useful info. Let's get started. We'll start with the Gonio district. It's the most remote area of Batumi and we'll talk about its prospects. I'll tell you right away that I'll be talking about the prospects that are definitely planned and those prospects that I think would be good to have, meaning what I think is logical to have in a given district so you can get an idea too. Because in my view, well, if it's super logical, then most likely the authorities will announce this process one way or another soon. The Gonio district, overall, it's an interesting area. It's the most remote, and its main downside right now is that there are huge traffic jams during the season. In the off-season, it's just a 30-minute drive simply because, well, the distance is quite far. But in the season, well, traffic jams can last an hour and a half. And even in rare cases, it can take 2 hours. So it's not exactly what you'd call convenient. The district has its own promenade, which is already not bad. Here it is, you can see it, this promenade. It's small, but it's there nonetheless, and that's great. The water here is clean. The water is clean here in Makinjari and in Chakvi. Essentially, we have 3 such districts with clean water because in the city itself, a river flows in. There are treatment plants, the water is dirty, and only tourists who don't know better swim there. Yeah, you can catch anything there and so on. What about Gonio? Gonio, in my opinion, needs a lot of development because here, besides a few branded hotels which have already reached their peak price, meaning for investment purposes today, they aren't interesting. Everything else is economy housing, right? Which obviously doesn't grow in value, is super cheap to rent, and is just not interesting for investment at all. So I think Gonio will develop and its main growth will surely happen once they build the road. They've already built a bypass around Batumi and they're promising one for Gonio within 5 to 7 years. So once that's operational, it'll definitely be interesting. And of course, I'd like to see new projects in Gonio, which we don't have yet, some really cool new projects, where you could actually make money. That's what I mean, because new projects always pop up, but projects that are undervalued, where there's a gap between the purchase price and the resale price. As of today, much to my regret, there aren't any in Gonio. Near Gonio, they're promising. By the way, here's a side view of Gonio. So you can see it's a nice green little area, and you see there are plenty of plots, but not all of them are reasonably priced, so it's not easy for developers here either. Many owners are asking for crazy prices for their plots, and of course, not every developer will be willing to buy. But on the other hand, it's good because it filters out cheap, pointless projects, so land price is a kind of filter for bad projects. Near Gonio, we have this huge, just massive site. Today it's abandoned, but soon the Imar project will appear here. Just a bit further at this location, the Imar project will be built. I won't go into detail, I'll just say it's a very large project on a vast territory. And it'll have its own embankments, its own green zones, walking areas, its own infrastructure. Basically, it'll be self-contained. I made a separate video about this project. You can watch it. I shared my opinion there on how interesting it is for investment. So in about 10 years, because I don't believe this project will be finished sooner, I personally believe in a longer time frame, not a shorter one. So in about 10 years, a generally nice, beautiful, large structure could appear here. With landscaped areas, And of course, over these 10 years, I think this part of Gonyo will be completed, meaning it will be more beautiful and better developed. What else can be said? That there's a river and it would be logical to build a bridge across it too. Because the road from Batumi goes right up to the river. And there, it would be good to build a bridge. If they do, another road can easily be laid here. And you'll have a super fast transfer to Gonyo. No need to drive through back streets somewhere far around the mountains, across bridges and so on. You'll be able to zip right along the embankment here. And that's a super logical solution. And why? Because this entire area will be developed one way or another. Well, maybe within 20 years, right? So it'll be built up anyway because beachfront land, the first line, is in high demand. Then it's logical that there should be quick access to all of this, good access. So I don't know, I think there are no such plans yet, only rumors, but from my point of view, it would be super logical to build this road and a bridge over this river. So New Batumi, what about New Batumi? It's all the same. The only thing I don't like is the huge amount of cheap, low quality housing here, just crammed in window to window, and courtyards packed with cars without any proper pedestrian zones and so on. So basically, a New Batumi, the only decent thing is this great park and a few comfort class residential complexes that are more or less livable. The price, of course, doesn't grow in them. From an investment standpoint, the yield is up to 5% per annum on rent, but you can buy them to live in if someone likes the location, the park, and so on, right? What I'm talking about, as you can see, this is also footage of New Batumi. Just from a bit further back, there's a huge amount of housing under construction here. And most importantly, developers buying up some little house or finding a decent price immediately start cranking out housing. Naturally, this is standard comfort class housing. It doesn't have much great infrastructure, so just the most basic residential complexes for living and not always built correctly in terms of things like insulation, light and layout and so forth. You can see that a lot is being built window to window again. And you never know, or rather you probably do know for sure here, that if you buy a place here, it will be built up all around. Just like, well, I don't know. Here's an example for you. There's a house in front, a house here, a house on the side, a house behind. I'm sure this plot will be built up too, and this plot will be built up too. So it's like a Klondike of anthills. It's not as bad a place as Anguissa Street over there. I'll show it to you later. It's actually a pretty terrible place. So it's okay here, but there are a number of downsides. The smell from the landfill reaches here, and there's a constant smell of rotten eggs, which is hydrogen sulfide. And the problem, in my opinion, is with pedestrian zones, because if you look at the paths, they're nowhere to be found here. Even inside, all these paths are blocked by cars. If you're walking to the sea, for example, you're walking among cars. So not only is the view not great, but the walk itself isn't either. For example, one residential complex, I won't name it, has a huge cemetery right next to it. And the road to the sea looks like this, right? So you're literally walking among cars, construction sites, fences, and so on. You can dream that pedestrian zones and beautiful streets will appear here one day, but I don't see that happening in the foreseeable future. So New Batumi, in my view, over the next 10 years will also be haphazardly built up with buildings. They'll just keep appearing here further and further from the sea. Prices will rise for these new builds, while secondary market prices will drop, right? Why? Because it's further from the sea and there's always enough real estate on the first line. Well, a person can easily buy even on the first line over there for 1,500 per square meter with no problem at all. But developers building further away are already selling at 2,500, right? What does that mean? It means that people who later resell this housing will be doing so at a loss. And we have many such examples. So my forecast for this area's development is bleak. Yes, many new developers will appear selling above the secondary market. And unfortunately, many people who don't know or understand this will get into this real estate and then wonder how to get out of it. Yeah, at least break even just to get their money back. So will the smell of hydrogen sulfide leave here? That will depend on how quickly they remove the treatment plants. Because, well, it's a big problem and it stinks quite a bit across all of New Batumi, and Imar will be built there. Well, I hope at least by the time the huge Imar project is built, they'll have to resolve something with this landfill and other issues. But if they don't solve it, then it will of course be very, very sad. We're moving on. We have Anguissa Street ahead of us. Why did I call it? For me personally. Personally, for me, this is the creepiest place because you see high-rise buildings built window to window. This is super cheap construction, very low quality in my opinion. And you can see that the same thing is happening there in the courtyards. I mean, there's absolutely no beauty there, no pedestrian zones, and people walking, again, do it mixed in with the cars. These are all completely packed courtyards. From above, it doesn't look as sad as, well, in reality, when you're walking there and seeing it all. So, well, in my view, it's, and again, notice that any free patch of land will be built up. Here's an example. You see a free one here. So when they strike a deal with these people regarding the price of their plots, and this will happen sooner or later, a high rise will appear here and it'll all be right window to window. So have no doubt that it will be literally like this. Like this. So, and of course, this is all economy class construction. So practically all of this is economy segment building. Why? Well, probably because it's super cheap to build. Yeah, and one way or another, the developer gets their margin. Yeah, meaning they cut corners on everything. Yet in advertising, they set the highest possible price at which people will buy. And that's how they get their profitability. Yeah, the chance to make a fairly decent profit from it. And this also explains why they build such high rises. Yeah, because, well, they squeeze as much money as possible out of every square meter of land, so they'll build as many floors as the city allows. Yeah, so there are no problems, as they say. And the next street is Heroes Alley. It was recently renovated. Yeah, it's become a much more pleasant street now. There's still a lack of infrastructure here if you walk along Heroes Alley, like restaurants or things like that, but it's starting to appear, it's coming to life. Overall, in my opinion, it's sad that there isn't a single business class residential complex here, meaning one with great infrastructure. And knowing how many of these projects were built, I unfortunately can't point fingers, but if you join my Telegram channel, I share much more and in greater detail there. But here overall, comfort class, and it continues to be built, meaning many residential complexes are being finished. Many of them have been under construction for 8 or 9 years already, and they're being finished today. Look, over there in the distance, an Orby anthill is being built. It'll also be big and tall. Overall, it'll be a decent street, so for comfort class housing, it'll be quite good overall. Infrastructure will appear, and in time it'll become more beautiful than it is now, and it'll be a decent place to live for those, again, only for those who like anthills, meaning huge 50-story concrete buildings. Now, on the downside, everything is packed with cars, but there's no avoiding that in Batumi. In my opinion, it spoils the look of the street a bit, but of course it's not the biggest problem here. You can see the plots too. Any free plot is snatched up and built over with high rises for the same reasons. There are long-term construction projects here, even from famous developers whose construction is being delayed. And you can see the same trend. Any plot a developer gets here, they build the same high rises on it, and this will naturally continue. Further on, everything is economy segment housing. So to summarize, you can look into buying a home to live in here, because in any building you check, you'll see a crazy number of rental offers. Yeah, meaning there are far more rental offers than there are people looking to rent. Then you can understand that some people, one way or another, end up without a tenant. Yeah, so people bought apartments but can't rent them out at a good price. And people are forced to keep lowering the price just to rent it out, so it doesn't sit there empty. Now, this is also an important point. You need to look closely, because from the calculations I've done, the yield here is again up to 5% per year. These are absolutely uninteresting figures for any kind of investment. Then in terms of, again, price growth, it's just not here. Developers show price growth on paper, but when a buyer enters the secondary market, they naturally sell at secondary market prices, which is lower than the developer's price. So many people here will end up selling for less than they originally paid as well. Moving right along, the Old Town. This is where the Azure project has kicked off. Soon I'll have a full breakdown of it on my Telegram. And there's plenty to say about it, so be sure to check it out. Overall, of course, no major new construction is planned here except for Orby, which is underway, and maybe later next to the Marriott. I'm not sure who owns that plot, but I think it's also Orby's, and they'll probably put up another high-rise there. There's really nowhere else to build here, you see, because everything's developed, and the park, no one will let them build over it, not to the right or left. So what you see now is pretty much it. So in the old town, there's hope that maybe someone will finally figure out the parking situation, and by someone, I mean the government, obviously, because parking issues here are massive and persistent. If the government takes action, maybe they'll buy up a plot, or either buy or find some land to build several parking garages, which would be fantastic. Right. Overall, I don't know of any serious cool projects in the old town that are currently undervalued and worth getting into, unfortunately. I'd love to know, so if you're aware of any, please tell me. But from what I've researched, nothing is interesting for investment in terms of price appreciation. So, and rentals in the old town are a whole other topic for discussion. Next, we have the Palm District. You can see how it's been built up. Just 2 years ago, only this one section was filled in. Over the next 2 years, they finished that, and now they're starting on the palm fronds. Undoubtedly, this project will become a landmark of sorts, because anyone entering the city will see a massive cluster of buildings. I don't recall the exact number, but I think there are about 15 large 50-story. Well, not all are 50 stories, but they'll range from about 30 to 50 stories high. So it's an interesting, complex project, and I'll be reviewing it on Telegram soon, where I'll cover the pros and, most importantly, my cons for this project, right? So if you're interested, join in and take a look. Overall, it will definitely enhance the city's skyline, and my expectation is that this district, once the port is removed, it really should be removed in the foreseeable future. Some said they'd remove it, others said not. Well, anyway, there are different opinions on this. Here you can see a huge amount of land near the port. So if they do remove the port, which I think is logical, right, because it'll make the city much more touristy and beautiful. I think the city, it seems to me, understands this too. So from a logical standpoint, one way or another, in 5, maybe 10 years max, I think it should be removed. But again, this isn't certain, and there's no official information on this yet. So right here, there's a huge number of oil storage tanks. And what's the main problem? It stinks. I mean, the smell of fuel oil and everything else spreads from here, reaching all the way to the old town. Especially this port area, it just reeks. You know, especially when the air is still, there's a real stench of fuel oil. I don't know how people live in these houses. Well, it's not every day, of course, but when that smell lingers, I just don't know. It's probably even very bad for your health. So even from an ecological standpoint, it would be very good if they remove this. So when several viewpoints converge on one thing, then I think that it has to happen eventually. Plus the railway now, this whole branch, it mostly serves the port. Yeah, so they transport all these goods that are brought into the port. Then if the port is removed, it's logical that the railway won't be needed here either, so they'll remove the tracks too. This will free up a large amount of land and so on. Here you can see the view of the palm from different angles, and this is the view of the palm from a third angle. This area will also be gradually developed, but construction isn't active yet. Not many developers want to come here. I think it's for the same reason again, that there's no free land and it's not that easy to find. The next district is Machinjori. Our next district is Machinjori. We'll move to it now. Here it is, Machinjori. And what you can see here is that this is our most developed district if we're talking about 5 kilometers from the city. And the thing is, there's nowhere left to build on the first line here. So it might seem like you see some green spots, right? But in fact, everything here has already been bought up. I mean, it's either some city buildings or it's private territory or it's this house here of cultural heritage, right? So wherever you look, the first line is full. On the second line, developers aren't really going there because they can build there, but it's harder to sell. And plus, well, the land here is super expensive, yeah. So in order to build something here, you have to negotiate with someone who has some private property. He's obviously pushing the price as high as possible there, so that's why we don't see many new construction sites around here. Maybe some projects will pop up, but this area already has a more, I'd say, finished look to it. I don't think anything major will appear here, though. Of course, we'll see. Further on, you can see the botanical garden. It's the botanical garden. It's the botanical garden. Here, of course, no one will be allowed to build anything anymore. Here, near the botanical garden, some small patches were built up. But again, you need to look at each project, examine them individually. There are serious questions about their price and value. Yes, soon I'll also review some of these projects on my Telegram, the ones that are at least somewhat significant. Stay tuned. And the next district, which I consider the most interesting to live in, is Chakvi. Chakvi. Why do I think it's the most interesting place to live? It's very simple. It's the greenest district, the least developed one. And here, well, one way or another, developers find, even though the land here is already expensive, developers still find plots for construction. And considering this land isn't cheap, cheap projects generally won't come here anymore. So we can understand that the project will be built, this Chakvi location will be developed with more or less decent projects, at least not below comfort class. And what are the pros? There are huge eucalyptus groves here, yes. It's a super green district overall. The air here is literally like at a health resort. And in the distance is the Mtarala National Park. It's beautiful. You can walk there too. And a very beautiful road to the park itself runs along the river and so on. We have a banana grove nearby where the whole city goes to take photos. It's a very Instagrammable spot. And overall, when you live in this district, you don't have that, hustle and bustle or loud noise. So if we look at the noise levels, it's probably the quietest district of all those mentioned, yeah. I mean, it's really quiet here. There aren't many cars. It has a special, pleasant atmosphere for living. And that's why I highlight this district, well, so to speak, in terms of apartment costs and people's desire to live here. I think it'll be the most expensive district to live in over the next 10 years. And plus, a plus of this district is that it's very close to the city. It might look far away in the picture, but it's actually close. Why? Because, well, like, the picture zooms out. And in reality, if you're in Chakvi, you see the city literally like this, right? I mean, when the camera shoots, it just zooms out. So it's 14 kilometers to any major city. I don't know what city you live in, of course, but that's a very short distance, yeah? So it's literally 20 minutes from here. And a plus is that there are no traffic jams. So if we were talking about the Batumi districts, Gonyo itself, and other districts, there you'll face traffic jams year-round or some kind of increased lengthy commute. But here you don't have any traffic jams, meaning you can literally fly to the city in 20 minutes year-round, even in high season. And that's also a major asset for this district. Plus, from the airport, you can get to the district quite quickly via the bypass right here. It's also great because you can land at the airport, hop in your car, or take a taxi and be in your neighborhood quickly without traffic. So in this area, you'll often find that you can get from the airport even faster than you would if you were heading to the old town. Why is that? Well, over there, you usually end up stuck in traffic on the way to the old town, but here you just fly along the bypass road very quickly without any jams at all. So that's how it is. Accordingly, the perks here are the clean water, plenty of plots for development, very fresh air, lots of lush, beautiful trees, and of course Mtarala National Park, the Botanical Garden, the Banana Grove, and other joys of life. Plus, if you drive through this area further back towards the mountains, there are actually very beautiful streets, trees hanging over the roads, a small river flowing. I mean, it's an atmosphere that if you drive there, you definitely won't forget. It's very scenic. It's a cool, beautiful, and pleasant district. Anyone who's driven through it or knows it, I think they're likely of the same opinion as me. And plus, well, considering it's also close to the city, that just adds even more value to this area. So that's the overview we've got. Friends, I've shared my vision of what, in my view, would be a logical addition to the city. And by the way, something else I haven't mentioned, I just remembered, is the promenade. In my opinion, it would be very logical to create a single promenade, at least to the end of Makinjauri. Actually, back in the Soviet era, there was a promenade here, meaning to build a continuous promenade all the way to the end of Makinjauri. And I feel the city should also come to this decision because it would greatly boost the prestige of this district, as it'd be great for people to step out of their homes and bike or walk along the promenade to the old town. Right now, that's not an option. But it might also be logical to extend this promenade even to the very end of Chakvi. Then we'd have a single continuous promenade with a length of, let's say, probably 25 kilometers, if I'm not mistaken. Well, if we include all the way to Gonyo, it might even be 30 kilometers. Then that would be awesome for everyone, especially those who love cycling. Imagine hopping on your bike and riding for 30 kilometers along the sea, enjoying the views. That would be such a cool, powerful feature for Batumi, certainly from a tourist's perspective. So this solution, of course, no one has announced it yet, but it seems super obvious to me, given that they might also remove the railway. In the long run, space opens up here to implement all of this, and if it all happens, it will be absolutely super cool. Well, again, I'll repeat, it's highly likely. So that's the review we've got. Please write your opinion, what you think. Maybe you know some insider information that I don't know. It would also be interesting to read. Write your opinion, what you think, what are the pros and cons. And most importantly, write what you would like, what you feel is missing in Batumi. What, in your opinion, would be exactly what's needed to make things good. As you've already realized, construction in Batumi is no simple matter. And not everyone building projects in Batumi has pure intentions. Since I can't give you all the information about the projects publicly, I invite you to talk to me personally. You'll get answers to your questions, and it will be as valuable as possible for you, because I'll give you a number of solutions that you won't find in the public domain. So write to me, let's talk, let's get to know each other.